Good evening, iRacers. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and our coverage of our iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship this week from COTA. Sorry for the delay. YouTube causing us problems, iRacing causing us problems as well, but we've just about managed to scrape in before race start. Lee Thompson here with Samulu Kumo on cameras. Sam Fitzpatrick is going to be joining us shortly as well, having just come straight back from covering the Euro V8, Samuli. And we can see the guys waiting on grid now. They're getting themselves ready to go. Christoph Urbano on pole position with Edward Samborski in second, Paul Ilbrink third with Tim Delisle in fourth, Rob de Boer in fifth with Alexis Matacro in sixth, Ronaldo Augusto seventh, Lubomir Moric eighth, Thomas Knoll ninth, Daniel Nockris in 10th, Omar Baha in 11th with Erka Lindström in 12th. 13th position is what's his actual name in my timing screen is I am Keeman. Okay, cool. Cedric Bill in 14th with Ivan Alfimov in 15th, Pete Tinkler in 16th, Riley Blythe in 17th, Nim Cross in 18th, and James Mallow in 19th. So lights are going on to green. Perfect timing as we look down the front straight from the turn one. Good launch from Herbino. Looks like he should have the inside well covered, but Samborski's under pressure from Paul Ilbrink straight away. Ilbrink up the inside into turn one. Looks like he's got the drive off the corner well. How are they doing in the middle of the pack? There's a spinner in the middle there. Otherwise, looked pretty clean. I think that was Ian Keeman, who spun with James Mallow at the back there as well.
Yeah, looks like so. And sorry about leaving you hanging there. It was just juggling many plates at the moment because of the issues we had. But good start so far from Thomas Knoll, up 3 positions from the start, so I think that is maybe the best start we've seen from him all season. But at the front, Herbino maintains his lead.
Yeah, it'd be good to see if Thomas Knoll can get a good result, and he's had a tough couple of weeks, I think, with different instances have been caught in. But as you say, Herbino leading from the front. Him and Paul Ilbrink are making a little bit of a gap already on Edward Samborski for that final podium position. You can see this long back straight that we have at COTA, and it's already come into effect for Thomas Knoll trying to make a position on Rob Bohr. He's got the inside line. Can he be late and brave on the brakes? He can, hits the apex pretty well, but Bohr tries to get a cutback. Thomas Knoll should have the inside now for the next little sequence and have that position covered off. And it looks like, yes, it is going to be secure, but Bohr trying to have a little sneaky look now as they come into this next tricky section. He's going to have the inside again. Rear stepping out on Bohr. Thomas Knoll manages to scrape around the outside. Bohr gathers it back up, just loses that one spot. So yeah, 5th for Knoll and 6th for Bohr.
Yeah, just about also hangs on to it, and right behind them that's another battle for the 7th place between Mataruca and Augusta. And just give me a second, it seems like something going on with the cameras.
Yeah, so Herbino leading then up to the turn one as they work their way onto the second lap already. Back towards the end of the top 10, we've got Nogaris and Augusta fighting hard as they come in towards turn one. And great cutback there from Nogaris on the exit. Augusto's going to have the inside for this first of the sweeping Maggots Beckett style sequence, and yeah, he ends up covering that position off. So good job there from Nogaris, and yeah, it'd be good to see him continue to move forward.
Yeah, through that section there's only really one line. You can try to go too wide, but it's just it's usually not going to work out very well, and you will both be losing time. And now Moric is also looking at that 9th position, goes on the inside, hard on the braking. And Nogueras really running wide there, but gets good exit and is able to maintain the position on coming out this straight.
Yeah, and Lindström behind had a real tough exit, lost a position just on traction off of that corner. And if he can hold on to the inside line, he might have a chance. So you see ahead Moric is still in the slipstream, but isn't liking for that position. Lindström does hold on to his 11th place for now.
And right behind it, that's a good battle here for the 20th place between Alfimov and Tinkler. Right now Alfimov is maintaining that position, but Tinkler is very close and they were just about side by side there.
Yeah, it's pretty frantic in these opening laps as everyone just tries to get that little bit of rhythm going. It's a tricky midsection of this circuit, and it'd be good to see this little squabbling continue on. Back in 8th position for Ronaldo Augusto, just We're pulling away ever so slightly now from Nogaris behind. So can he bridge the gap to 7th position? Well, he was 10th slower that time by, so it's not looking too promising from that lap. But up ahead, Tim Delisle having to defend pretty hard. It looked like from Samborski, or did he just get that position, Samuli, off of Samborski there?
No, he is defending. Samborski is closing in. At a good moment, I think Sam Fitzpatrick is able to join us now.
Yes, hello. Sorry for the site today, just doing the previous broadcast, of course, the UOV8s, but have to be commentating on this, and of course it's looking pretty tight at the moment. Samborski versus Delisle, as we were speaking about. So of course Delisle, the driver who's won the majority of the races that he's entered, had a bit of a mare at Montreal, got taken out at turn 1 after taking pole. But on the most part, usually very difficult to beat, but currently running down in 3rd place, still certainly with a chance of winning this event. But Samborski putting up a very good fight at the moment.
Yeah, so unfortunately Samborski started from 2nd position, so as you say, he's lost a couple of spots now already, but still fighting hard, as is back at the 13th, 14th, 15th position, squabbling hard through the middle of the circuit. Pete Tinkler there alongside. Contact between Tinkler and Alfmov. Alfmov came off a hell of a lot worse on that one. We'll see how much damage Tinkler has as well, but it's such a tricky, tight section through that bit of the circuit, Sam. It really requires a lot of cooperation to run side by side through there.
Yeah, and you got a couple of kinks as well through this part of the circuit, which aren't really proper corners, so it's difficult to tell you kind of should leave space. There maybe just seemed like Tinkler came across a little bit too much. Maybe thought that he didn't have his car alongside, so was trying to just slot in behind. But yeah, just running into his rival a little bit there. He's losing his pace down the straight, it seems, as Keeman goes down his inside into turn 1, the super wide turn 1 uphill as well, so can break really deep into it. And it is Keeman who gets ahead. And of course, once you get through this part of the circuit, there's no chance of an overtake. And the turbulent air takes a little bit of an effect. Not too bad in this car, but it's certainly still not going to help you too much. And you can see the space that Keeman has already built up.
And Riley Blythe running in 15th position at the minute. Gained 2 spots off the start, so I think there's mainly more from incidents from other drivers, but it looks like he is trying to claw his way onto Tinkler, who's still falling back with that little bit of damage maybe that he had from the previous incident. Paul Littlebrink at the minute is doing a decent job of staying with the leader, Christoph Herbeno, just a second and a bit down on him, but it's certainly a lot less than a second here between Lindstrom and Nogaris, who we've seen a few times already today being involved in different battles, and Moric behind us looking to get a little bit of a sniff of the action there as well, but they ended up sorting themselves out as they came to the exit of that section. And yeah, Moric getting a good run through this kind of reverse, what was it, turn 8 in Turkey, Sam? You'll know exactly the corner number offhand.
Yes, of course, yeah, turn 8.
Oh, what a good guess.
Quadruple apex corner. This one, I believe, 3 apexes. And not quite the same. It's not quite as not banked as well. But I mean, I'm sure Istanbul would be up in the top 5 or 6 tracks that people would like to be scanned for iRacing. Oh, it's Thomas Knoll from a promising position, having a collision with Matarucho, and that is going to drop Matarucho down to 12th place now. And this is how it happens. So they're not close to one another at all. And Matarucho, I think, is going to go for a bit of a Ricardo. No, he's just missed his braking point there. Accidentally goes into Knoll, and credit to him. He waits for Knoll to get back going. Good to see sportsing driving like that.
Yeah, it's good to see, as you say, that response, but yeah, really unfortunate for Thomas Knoll there, complete innocent party, of course, and say just a big misjudgment, and then more contact a little bit further around on the lap. Looked like they're struggling a bit with netcode as well, I think, on that one.
Yes, glad that wasn't on the iRacing Esports Network. Otherwise, we'd have to be saying that was horrendous contact made by the two drivers. Not sure who that was. He was that Lindstrom. I guess it probably was Lindstrom who he made contact with, because Lindstrom's lost 6 positions, I believe, and yeah, he's right at the back of this train. So brilliant to see everyone from Knoll in 7th down to Bill in 15th, all pretty much in a train. And also we've got this Mao versus Alphamov battle. Alphamov, of course, with that crash around this part of the circuit, about 2 laps ago. I think he's struggling with damage at the moment. Nim Cross is currently car number 19, 19th place out of these drivers, the lowest I-rated driver out here. And he's quite detached from the rest of the field at the moment. Must have had a spin on that last lap, lost 12 seconds.
So I'm presuming that's got to be iRacing employee or ex-employee, Nim Cross, I presume.
Yes, quite high up in... I think he's one of the founding people, is Nim Cross. He's pretty much been there from the start, a little bit of a legend among the forums.
Yes, Nim Cross is the chief steward, basically, who handles the protests.
So you don't want to have contact with him, safe to say.
Yeah, and it looks like he had unfortunately been in the wars a lot, and in fact he's gone into pit lane now as well, right on cue. So yeah, unfortunate for Nim on the broadcast not having the rub of the green early on. Paul Lilbrink's at the front, still keeping Herbano honest, not letting him scamper away. We've seen this kind of develop a couple of times this season now, with Herbano leading from the front and Ilbrink trying to hang on in there. Ilbrink, we can see from the graphics, has been closing up a little bit over the last couple of laps though. So Herbano's lap times have been fairly consistent, a little bit slower on the last one. It looks like maybe Ilbrink is just continuing to pick up that pace as the tyres come in and the fuel is gradually burning off. So yeah, within what, 8-9 tenths now.
Yeah, he's certainly keeping him honest. And at the moment, the track temperature, by the way, this will kind of influence how much, of course, grip they have and also how quickly the tyres will go off. So 34 degrees, not too bad. I was doing an Interlagos race the other day, or yesterday, it was 52 degrees track temperature. The hottest I've ever seen track temperature. So compared to that, considering that we're in Texas, not too bad for these drivers. Don't know if the maybe the date takes an effect. Of course, in November. Yeah, this actually is the precise day, of course. So in November, shouldn't be too warm. As Nim Cross just letting everyone else pass on the inside. They're certainly doing the wise thing.
And Pete Tinkler still ahead of Riley Blythe there, 13th and 14th position. Blythe a little bit closer than the last time we looked, gained a couple of attempts, but maybe not close enough for a move yet as we come through this kind of Beckett style complex of COTA. Be interested to see if he can get himself in a position to get a good run down the back straight out of turn 11. Of course, that's the big opportunity on the circuit, along with the run up to turn 1 down the front straight to get a move done. So what kind of position can Riley get himself into now as they come into the heavy braking zone of turn 11? Looks a little bit deeper on the brakes than Tinkler, but it's such a short apex that you can really sort of square that off. And Blythe should be looking kind of reasonably okay with that little bit of extra draft. Up ahead, Nogaris defending from Morich a lot harder than he was before. And in the background, I can see that Blythe did not get close enough to Tinkler. But yeah, Morich putting Nogaris under a lot of pressure here. Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't go for a move into turn 11, because that was as close as you could possibly be. He was right under the rear wing as we got a spinner. That is Thomas Knoll. He was having a really good race earlier on, but got tapped from behind this time. It is a self-mistake. And fortunately, loses probably about 8 seconds or so, a few positions, and just gets on the power there. All of a sudden, the car spinning around slightly. Surprising mistake, because he didn't seem like he touched the curb or the AstroTurf on the outside there, but lost a lot of grip, and now he's got a few places to make up, such as the tightness of this midfield.
Yeah, it is very, very tight. We can see in the track map how the top 4 cars have got a little bit of a gap. 5th and 6th are a bit on their own, and then from 7th all the way back to 15th, it's looking pretty compact there, as we've got a couple of cars kind of recovering from earlier incidents, and the general mid-pack in amongst there as well. So yeah, quick run through the top 10 in order. I think Christophe Herbano in that first position, with Paul Lilbrink still dropped a little bit further back now in second, 1.2, 1.3 seconds back. Tim Delisle then in third. Edward Zemborski still in that 4th position with Rob Bohr in 5th. Ronaldo Augusto in 6th, and Nogaris, who we're watching now, are still under lots of pressure from Morich for 7th and 8th. Omar Baha then in 9th with Ian Keeman in that 10th position. But yeah, Moritz looking as close as he's been so far. Surely he's going to have the opportunity for this move into turn 12. How late on the brakes is Nogres going to be in response? Well, Moritz got it pretty clean. Nogres looking for a little bit of a cutback, but Moritz got that position made, did not run wide of the apex at all.
Of course, half a chance to get back the position here as Moritz runs wide.
Ooh.
And he's really giving himself an opportunity now. Fortunately, Tarmac on the outside there, so he doesn't lose too much time. Still with a slightly tighter entry to that long corner, but fortunately gets back a bit of a gap. And Moritz, as long as he doesn't make another mistake, should be able to pull away now and perhaps chase after Ronaldo Auguste. 6 seconds, you can see the track, the gap for yourself. Just in the distance there, Auguste quite a bit ahead. So Moritz might have to settle for 7th place today, which would be a strong result considering that the pace of the drivers right behind him. Deep on the brakes seemingly was Noguas into turn 1, had to take a slightly different line, and Lubermeyer getting that gap up to half a second now.
Yeah, so it looks like Moritz, if he doesn't make any more mistakes, should be able to continue just pulling away, but he's got a big gap ahead if he wants to close up any further. But looking so busy here still in the back of the top 10. Just seeing yellow interval markers all the way through the timing screen. But spin for Omar Baha, spins it around beautifully again to get himself pointed the right way and collects himself up, try and keep that rear in check as they're a bit hot now under pressure. But yeah, unfortunate there for Baha. Blythe gets that position on Tinkler, but can Tinkler get a cut back out of turn 11, and then this long run all the way down to 12. Blythe defends very early, and yeah, Tinkler now stuck on the outside trying to pull alongside. You see the damage that Tinkler's got, maybe that's reducing his top speed.
Yeah, feels like a while ago they got a little bit of damage, but yeah, so slightly different on the front wing there. Also, of course, could be running a little bit more drag, as we saw at Phillip Island on the most extreme scale, which was running high downforce and low downforce, and it radically changing these cars. Today it seems to be a little bit more of a consensus as Mataruccio now with a mistake, and that's the exact same corner that Noel made a mistake, I believe, on the last lap. And Mataruccio was running in the top 8, I believe, earlier on. Had already had a setback, I believe, and this was a big one. And he, to be fair, did get on the AstroTurf that time, so a little bit more understanding that he lost the car, but just shows the difficulty of getting the power down in this 3.5 car. It's got so much power. Tinkler getting a slowdown, must have gone wide at the penultimate corner, I imagine, or even cut the penultimate corner, and he has to give up a couple of places.
Yeah, Tinkler now under lots and lots of pressure from Cedric Bill as they come through the opening complex of the lap. So such a cracking little section through there. Obviously, say reminiscent, as we said, of Maggots and Beckett's. It's kind of such a weird circuit, this one, Sam, isn't it? Because it's got no real kind of identity about it in a way. It's so kind of cut and paste with the different sections from other circuits around the world. It's a glorious setting with the tower, but the circuit itself just feels a little bit yeah, not very well kind of put together, if you like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this track is a proper car test because it's got high-speed corners, long straights, and it's got slow-speed corners as well. So a great test for a car. As Lindstrom goes to the outside of his rival. We've also got these really wide turn-ins to the hairpins, and it invites overtaking. I have to say, whenever F1 visits here, it's always a good race. Can't remember ever a bad race around this track. So it's a good race circuit, not the best to drive, incredibly difficult to drive, especially if you've got a single monitor to just spot the apex when you're turning into these corners. But I mean, I'll try to not go on a Herman Tilk rant, but of course, many of his circuits kind of similar to this design, incorporating some fast corners, some slow corners, and a couple of long straights as well. And it's nice to go to the old school circuits like Monza, for example, or Silverstone, who kind of have really long straights or really fast corners respectively, and it's good to get away from these circuits, which do feel very similar, a lot of the Tokyo Jones, just because they have kind of very similar characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel sorry for a bloke these days because I'm sure he's under very, very tight restrictions to how he's allowed to design the corners with, you know, runoffs and profiles and curbs and those sorts of things. But let's say COTA for sure is one of his better efforts. I think it's safe to say. How are we looking back at the front? Paul Lilbrink has now dropped off Christophe Herbenot a little while, so down or up rather to 1.5 seconds when it was as low as 8/10. What, 3-4 laps ago, something like that. So just dropping back a little bit now into the grasp, sorry, of Tim Delisle in third. We can see him in the back of the picture there briefly as we come through. So 4 seconds between the top 3, 6 between the top 4. All it's going to take is a little mistake somewhere from one of these top 4 guys, and that can certainly shuffle around a little bit more still. But yeah, those top 4 cars in that little bit of a grouping still. 5th position of Rob Ball having a very, very lonely race, as is Ronaldo Augusto still in that 6th position. Lubomir Moric is making that little bit of a gap closing efforts to 6th position Augusto, so he's closed by just over a second, I think, since we last checked in with him after he made that move on Nogaris a few laps ago as well. But it's just looking so busy still. 8th, 9th, 10th back, all just over a second apart. But it's just calmed down maybe just for a second now, and we'll see what else develops as the race continues on. See Thomas Noah in the background there recovering to 10th position now, so he's gained those couple of spots since his spin earlier on.
Yeah, he's certainly one to watch out for in the second half of this race. 20 laps, of course. I think that's pretty much the least amount of laps we have of any circuit this season, just because of the vast length of this place. As I frantically look to see what actually the size of this circuit is. It is 5.52 kilometers. I believe Spa is about 7 kilometers, so still not quite reaching that limits, but yeah, it's still one of the longest circuits we visit all season long. Tim Delisle, I think you may have said the fastest lap of the race on that last time, half a second faster than Christophe Herbenot. So are closing in a little bit are those top 3, and you can see the midfield just spreading out a little bit. There's about a second between each of them now. They're kind of finding their correct positions when it comes to pace, and they're just starting to separate a little bit. But it's so easy to make a mistake around this track, and it's so easy to make a mistake. Of course, if you get a slide as well, overheat the tyres slightly, and if you do that in the mid part of the lap, then that can really hinder the rest of your lap time. So important that you don't slide those tyres too much, otherwise they can really lose you a lot of grip.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that over the season so far, that the tyres may be a little bit sensitive at times to overheating, as the guys struggle then to continue on after maybe a little slide or a little instant. It takes that time for them to settle back in. But the guys have had a good chunk of the season now to get used to driving these cars, if maybe it's their first season especially, and so I think we're seeing less and less instance, kind of purely car related. So it's been a tricky circuit for instance with cars going side by side we've seen so far tonight, but otherwise looking fairly tidy. Tim Delisle still looking pretty good at the front as well. He's still running quicker than those cars ahead of him in the last couple of sectors as well. So we can see now he's closing to 1.5 seconds of Paul Lilbrink just ahead of him in that second position in the glorious classic Radicals Online's colours. And it's just concertinaing together nicely at the minute. Herbenot slowest of the top 4 last time by. So if this continues on, this could develop into a nice little battle between these top guys.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what we were saying last week was how great it would be if we had all the front runners in this championship fighting toe-to-toe, because we tend to have a bit of a runaway winner in this series. Someone who kind of just turns up, has half a second a lap on everyone else. And I wouldn't necessarily say any of these guys are new. We've seen all 3 of these guys in the same race previously. It's just that combination of all of them having a clean race and all of them really up for the fights today. Delisle usually has the edge, it must be said, on Lilbrink in particular, and also Herbenot, I believe, as well. But today, not quite there. Maybe not quite being able to put that same time in practice, or maybe the other guys have just upped their level a little bit, but great to see finally these guys properly go out it on circuit. I hope we're not going to see a bit of an anticlimax where it's just 1.5 seconds between each of them for the remaining laps, but I honestly think that we're going to see quite a crescendo at the end of this race, especially if the tyres start to fall off slightly, because I don't think the turbulent air is going to be too bad. I think if they can just get within slipstream range, we should get even closer to one another.
Yeah, and talking about cars being close to one another, I'm seeing Cedric Bill and Erka Lindstrom closing up a little bit, half a second between those cars for 12th, 13th position. So they're looking like something developing there nicely. Lindstrom last time by was a good half second quicker than Tinkler, so I dare stay off this corner off turn 11 on this long run down to turn 12 now that Lindstrom might have a good opportunity on Tinkler. Does Tinkler feel the need to defend particularly early? Just sticking to the racing line for now. Lindstrom has a little look on the inside. He's going to come from a little way back if he makes that move, and in fact Tinkler gives him plenty of space. Lindstrom, yeah, nice clean move into turn 12, and opportunity now to try and chase down Riley Blythe, who you had a pretty similar lap to last time by.
Yeah, these guys quite evenly matched, so yeah, it's kind of tough to close that gap now.
Yeah, sorry, Sam. Yeah, so like I say, yeah, it's fairly even between these guys. So talking about the championship contenders a minute ago, we didn't quite get a chance to have a look at the pre-race championship points since we were a bit late getting into the session, but we can bring those up for you now, just out of curiosity. Let's see how we're looking. So Moric is current championship leader. Wow, so doing a great job this week, but of course he's having a little bit of a tough session here today, down in that 7th position. Rob Bohr then second, Tim Dalal third, Herbano fourth. So it's kind of, yeah, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, a kind of reverse order today in the race, with Moric way down the order. So opportunity for Dalal to score some big points if he can make up this 2nd position on Paul Ilbrink, but otherwise it's looking like maybe a little bit of a tougher race for the rest of the top 4 there.
And of course, what's another important factor, I'm not sure if you can see it on your screen, I don't think you can, but Moric and Bohr have got 8 weeks counted, meanwhile Dalal and Herbano have only got 6 weeks counted. And the top 8 weeks out of 12 are counted, so still Dalal and Herbano should have, really should be ahead, so as long as they do turn up for a couple more of these rounds towards the end of the season, they should have the edge there. Also, Ilbrink is down in 8th place in this championship, but again, he's only got 5 weeks counted. So he's still got half a chance. He's 150 points behind Herbano and Dalal. So I do think these top 3 are the 3 favourites for the title. Also, Matti Sippola as well. He's got half a chance. Currently 6th place in overall. He's only 50 points off Dalal and Herbano. I always find it a little bit tricky with these official series. It's difficult. Of course, they have to have a system where it rewards you depending on your split, but of course there's not a set amount of points that the winner gets for each of these races, and of course this might not even be the highest strength of field race, and if they do turn up in this race they can go do another race during the week, so it's tricky to keep a grasp of this series. And I think maybe if we do a future official series like this, maybe we should have our own point system. I know it's worked decently where you just have a specific championship for that broadcast. Might be a decent idea, but still it's good to have quite an influence in this championship, and whoever wins out of this race will almost certainly be the highest scorer for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Nolwingsey in that 10th position, still trying to claw his way back up the field a little bit more, closing to a third of a second now of Keeman in that 9th place. Again, he looks like he could be shaping himself up for a bit of a run out of turn 11. Otherwise, again, we're not seeing a huge amount else through the rest of the field right now. Thomas Knoll looks like he did get a reasonable run off of that corner, but on board now, is it going to be enough in the slipstream to get that opportunity down to turn 12? We can see how it's suddenly picked up now, actually, so he is now closing in a draft, but just topped out on the revs, I think it sounded like there, Sam. He was closing, and then just hit a brick wall.
Yeah, and he hit that rev limiter very early. Here's an opportunity. He's not going to hit the rev limiter into 12. Puts his car down the inside, needed to rely on his rival, giving him a bit of space there. Noel will have the outside for this next corner. I don't think he's going to get his way around there, but you can get the cutback, as you can do for so many of those tight corners. but following through this part of the circuit, it's really shown to be difficult, and Noel getting a little bit of understeer, falling offline, and now he's got to kind of reset, and he's almost too far behind to go for an attack into turn 1. Remember, these drivers have a few DRSs available during the race. I believe it's something like 6 DRSs available during the race, which they'll use down, of course, this pit straight or the back straight. And so keep an eye out on that. Of course, if these drivers do rapidly increase their speed, that might be the reason why. But surprised to see Noel kind of run out of revs as well as he did, because he was accelerating quick down that straight, and then all of a sudden, like you said, Lee, just hit a brick wall.
Yeah, I think so. It's so it was interesting to see on that one. So yeah, Thomas Noel just going to struggle, I think, to really get a position done there, and like I say, through the twisties might be where he needs to make it happen, and he almost managed it that time by. Tim Dalal was fastest again of the session last time round, so close to nearly within half a second at some point during that lap. Now it's more like 6-7 tenths, but he's looking like he's feeling confident with those tyres as they get towards the end of the race. Only, what, 2.5 laps to go now. Interesting to see how they do this time by. A couple of personal bests of this sector for both Herbino and Ilbrink. Yeah, still continuing to close up very nicely. I think Zamborski is not really going to be able to continue to close enough. Last time by, he was a couple of attempts slower. But yeah, at the front here, this time Delisle matches exactly Paul Ilbrink. So, and in fact, Herbino was 10.5 quicker.
Yeah, so Herbino maybe has the edge on these two drivers. Of course, he did start ahead of them, and maybe if they do finish in this order, we'll be able to put it down to qualifying. Qualifying not usually massively important in iRacing. Most cars you can kind of get the overtake done anyway. Usually it's faster to follow another driver, but this car, and with the quality of these drivers as well, where mistakes is so rare, seemingly track position has been quite important. Down to 6 tenths of a second again though. Ilbrink with a decent run through 9, 6 tenths of a second again on exit. They're absolutely matching each other through the vast majority of these corners, and down the straight actually Dalal losing time down this straight, so running a little bit more drag it seems. They've got quite large rear wings, at least that's what we try to judge it on. The most of the time, of course, there's other factors as well affecting the drag of these cars, and actually Dalal has lost time down that straight about 1/10 of a second despite being in the slipstream ever so slightly. Certainly not a good sign if he wants to make the overtake for him to be slow down the straights. Like I said, like I referenced earlier on, Phillip Island's a round where we really saw the extremes of that, where drivers who were seemingly faster just couldn't get anywhere near one another down the straights. Seemingly pretty good through the corners, but not quite happening for Tim Dalal as we move on to the final 2 laps of this race. They did catch up to Herbino on that last lap, 0.3 of a second gain, but still 1.6 seconds car number 3 has got in his pocket as cars number 1 and 2 tried to chase.
Yeah, so Herbino looking pretty comfortable up front, as you say, and you know, Paul Ilbrink's an old hand at this. He's not going to be put under pressure from Tim Dalal on this last lap and be forced into a mistake, but that's what it's going to take for Dalal to get this second position. So yeah, top 3 looking pretty solid at the minute. Elsewhere down the field, I'm seeing down to 3.5, 4 tenths for 8th and 9th position between Nogaris and Keeman, but again, maybe not a move happening there imminently, but there is a little bit of a battle going on at least. Otherwise, the rest of the field is looking fairly calm. So yeah, that possibility for a position change at the front might be where we need to keep our eye on as they head down the back straight. I can see Ilbrink closing, or Dalal rather, closing to within 3.5 tenths down the back straight, but again, it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, maybe using one of his DRSs there. Had much better straight line speed. Maybe on the previous lap, maybe Ilbrink used his DRS. It's very difficult to see on these 3.5 cars. Or that's almost an attempt from Dalal. That's going to be something that Ilbrink's got to keep an eye out on. There's so many wide apexes around this circuit that if you're not careful, you can be mugged by the car behind. He just kind of dives down your inside. Going wide as Ilbrink. could be on the limit of these 17 incidents, of course, and this is the part of the race where you really hope to have a few extra, especially when you're trying to defend or trying to attack, because it can be a couple of tenths or a second gains if you can afford to use the track limits to your advantage, as they're on their 20th and last lap.
And Nogaris and Keeman rather still battling away a little bit, but still no move made by Keeman, who's been putting Nogaris under a fair amount of pressure during that lap. Again, closing to within 2.5 tenths or so, but nothing happening for now. So time is ticking out for these two little battles going on to resolve. Say Tim Delisle and Neil Brink not looking like a move's going to happen there. Can Keeman fire one up the inside into turn 1 here on the final lap? He doesn't. Closes nicely on the apex, but what kind of run does he get off corner? He gained a tenth or so, so he's within 2.5 tenths now as they come through this opening complex of corners. And can he hang with Nogaris now to try and get that run down the back straight?
Really tricky to pick your turn-in zones around this part of the circuit. Just due to those massive curves you got on the inside. Of course, if you turn in ever so slightly early, you're going to lose control of the car. And, probably worst of all, cause a lot of damage to your car. But that was a good run on the exit, and you can see the really tight line from Noguris. I'm not sure if he had to be quite so tight on the entry there. Now, this is where you use your GRS if you've got any more remaining. Side by side, Keeman's going to go down his inside.
Leaders are coming around the final corner.
The leaders are approaching the line.
And so Herbino crosses over the finish line, takes the win for COTA this week. So Herbino does manage to hold on. Pilder Ilbrink also keeping Delisle off as Delisle nearly runs into the back of Ilbrink. So yeah, Herbino, then Ilbrink, then Delisle. Close run battle all race long. How's it looking between Keeman and Nogaris? It's contact in the middle of the circuit. And Keeman viciously spins the car back round. Nogaris continues as well. So we'll catch up with a replay on that, but just unfortunate timing. We had to cut away to the leaders to see them cross the line, and Keeman getting tangled up again with a recovering Baha, who had that instant that spin earlier on also.
Shame that it came down to that on the last lap, because that was a terrific battle amongst those 7 or 8 drivers for the entire race. It was so evenly matched. You can see them all crossing the line very near one another across the start-finish line. One of the best kind of trains we've seen all season long in this series. Christoph Herbino, what a performance from him. He got the lead early on, good qualifying performance, and did just seem to back off maybe in those last couple of laps. Ended up only 1 second ahead, but he just about had that one in his pocket. And Delisle will be a bit frustrated that he dropped down to 4th, or was running it in 4th after that qualifying in the early stages, and it just left him a little bit too much to come back to make some overtakes.
Yeah, he said, solid race from Herbino, wasn't it? He never really looked under a huge amount of pressure. Ilbrink managed to close to within, half a second or so for the first couple of laps, but after that, never really had an answer for Herbino at all. Tim Delisle, as you said, he never really got an opportunity to really stick his nose on Ilbrink, but so close to picking up that second position. Be good to see what happened in the middle of a pack there between Nogaris and Keeman as it kicked off at the end of the lap.
Just a little bit of an update, by the way, on the incidents. No one really got anywhere near 17. The highest we got was 11 for Nogaris and Keeman. So very good from the drivers.
Right, so actually then it looked like that battle had cooled off a second. Keeman had dropped back a little bit. Thomas Knoll it was from behind, who was trying to pick up a position through this tricky section. Going to go for a cutback, I suspect. And Keeman just, it's all good, all under control. I thought it was on that section there, the instance. Are we a lap before?
Yeah, this is a few laps earlier, so I just need to get the few laps later.
There we go, there's the closer battle.
So 2 laps later than this.
No, I'm not sure if this one is it, because I'm not seeing anything on the
So I think our timing system didn't quite pick up then the incident between these two guys. So we'll just let this play out in the background whilst we go through our little bit of post show, and we'll catch up in a minute with what happened between those two. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy fight all the way through. So here's our final race results. Then Christoph Herbenau, as we saw, taking the win, 1.9 seconds in the end over Paul Ilbrink. Tim Delisle then in that third position. So those were our podium finishes, cars 1, 2 and 3, you can see in the session as well. Edward Samborski then finishing in that fourth. So he did start from second position on the grid, but looked pretty solid in that fourth for the majority of the race. Rob Ball then very, very lonely race. It looked like in fifth. Ronaldo Augusto in sixth. Lubomir Moric didn't really close any further actually on Augusto. He did get down to within 5.5 seconds, and it ended up stretching out a little bit more than that in the end. Thomas Knoll then picking up a couple of spots thanks to those incidents at the last lap, finishing in 8th. Erka Lindström then in 9th with Daniel Nogoris in 10th. Cedric Bill in 11th with Pete Tinkler in 12th. Omar Bahar in 13th. And James Mallow in 14th position. Then in 15th place was Ian Keeman. 16th place was James. I think something's maybe not quite right about the end of the race results there. I've got slightly different numbers showing between my screen and the race results screen. But anyway, that's the bulk of our finishing standings. Right, so we have got a couple of drivers waiting for interviews today. So let's bring in Paul Ilbrink first of all, who we like to speak to each week, and hear his thoughts on how his second place turned out. Evening, Paul. Good to see you again for the 3.5s. Looked like you closed a little bit on Herbenau at the start, first couple of laps, but then just didn't quite have an answer for him through the second 2/3 of the race.
Yeah, I think I was like fairly even on pace, but a bit towards around the middle of the race. I struggled to bring the lap times down a bit further, which he and especially Tim seemed to do quite well. Then towards the end of the race, it was just looking, monitoring the gap to Tim, because I don't know, like he struggled at the beginning, it seemed, with like not as quick lap times as I would have expected from him, but towards the end he really did some blistering fast laps and closed the gap, and yeah, that kind of like distracted me a bit from like trying to catch Christoph anyway, but I don't know if we would have gotten there anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, certainly it was looking tight, as you say, between the end of the race between you and Tim. It looked like you had him pretty well covered down the back straight with your top speed. Were you running sort of a reasonably low downforce setup to try to keep that top speed, or was that just your natural sort of position for where you felt comfortable for the circuit?
No, it was just a high downforce setup, which was probably used by a lot of people, but I just you have like 8 DRS usages for the race, and apart from using one on lap 1, I saved the rest for the end of the race, which I pretty much needed as well, because at first I thought Tim was closing in because he used some of his DRS or something, but he just kept doing quick laps and closing me in, so I was happy that I could use a fair bunch of them in the final laps.
Excellent. Well, I'd say definitely looked like it made the difference, as you say, to create that gap still. So a bit of tactical DRS use worked out well for you. COTA's obviously a real sort of visually an interesting circuit. How do you find it to drive, Paul? Are you a fan?
Oh yeah, it's a really good track to drive with these kind of cars, especially like the first section with the S's. It's like really satisfying if you get the line right and carry all the speed through there. Yeah. Other than that, it's just I guess one of the better modern tracks. So yeah, it's enjoyable to drive in this car.
Yeah, so that's a good high downforce car to attack the opening sector in, especially I'm sure, and the last couple of corners as well. How are you feeling for sort of championship challenge for the season in this car, Paul? How are you feeling with sort of drop weeks and how that's gonna shake out?
I haven't looked too much at that. I think like Christoph and Tim both are like such quick drivers, and I think I'm like a little bit short on them compared to pace. So if I have a chance, I have to like get it from consistent point scoring or something and staying out of trouble. But yeah, I'm not bothered too much with that. I'm just like enjoying the races every Saturday.
Okay, good. Well, I'm sure you'll enjoy your race next week as well. Donington Park, of course, yeah, classic circuit. It's going to be well suited to these cars as well. Paul, how do you normally find your run at Donington there?
I don't know which layout it is. If it's like the full one or
Oh, that's a good question.
national. But
Grand Prix circuit, sir.
oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. Might be a bit like narrow and small for these cars to race at, but yeah, we'll see. Like I've liked driving it in F3, etc. But I'll have to see how this car will fit on there.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to finding out as well. If you want to go through your roll call as well, Paul.
Oh yeah, I want to thank everybody at Radicals Online and our sponsors and partners: Cranfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Arma Center, Aston Sim Race, Mode F Podcast, Turn Racing, Sim Mortal, Six Sideways, and Pixel.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We look forward to speaking to you again next week, Paul, hopefully with another strong result. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Cheers. And so Paul Ilbrink there, taking that second position here at COTA. Sam, would you like to have a chat with Edward Samborski?
Yes, of course. Who finished in 4th place today. Congratulations there, Eddie. I mean, first up, that qualifying lap. Good effort. I mean, to out-qualify Paul and Tim must have felt great.
I was surprised. I was just looking down, the lap felt good. I looked down at the relative and I saw 2, and I was like, yeah, okay. No one else has put in their laps yet. And then I was like, I finished the second lap, and I'm like, oh, okay. When am I going to start falling down the field here? And it just never happened.
Have you put much effort into that qualifying set, or as you said, was it just a really nice lap?
It's both. I actually use VRS for setups, paid subscribers, so I got to thank them because the car is always great to drive. And then this week I just focused on trying to do single lap pace as best as I could because I wanted to try to avoid what happened last week. So I mean, no fault to anybody. It's racing, things happen, but I did not want to be part of that again.
Definitely. Well, in the race, it proved to be pretty good as well. I mean, 8 seconds off the lead in the end of some of the very quickest drivers in this series. Do you feel like you're making some progress as the weeks go by?
Absolutely. I think one of the first weeks I was almost top 20, maybe 15th average in qualifying, and now I've kind of snuck in, top 5, top 10 area, and I'm practicing a lot, so I absolutely think that has a lot to do with it.
And in terms of this circuit, what do you think of it? Because it divides opinion. Some people despise this place. Some people quite enjoy it. What are your feelings towards it?
I absolutely love driving it. The issue that I think I have with a lot of high-speed circuits when you're running high downforce is if somebody is in front of you, you can only go backwards. At the start of the race, I was trying to be really cautious and not have any netcode incidents. And I got behind Tim, I think, and that car just went straight. I couldn't believe it. Like I had to basically completely lift and then stab the throttle to get the car to rotate. But as far as time trial in here, I love it. It's such a fun place. The S's, and it's very technical. It's just, I love it.
Absolutely. And I mean, looking forward to next season, of course, we've still got, a month or so to go, to be fair. But do you reckon, with your experience in this car this season, you're going to stick with the car next season?
Oh, absolutely. I've solely driven this car in championships for a better part of the year now. I like to drive dirt and some hosted stuff, but as far as official races, this is pretty much all I drive. I dip into some favorite tracks, like Lime Rock with the Ford GT, and I like driving the F3 at Laguna Seca, but it's just, exhibition races, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, fantastic to watch you out there today, Edward. Before you let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Just my wallet and my mom, because she pays for some of my stuff occasionally. No, I'd like to thank you guys too, and iRacing and VRS for putting this on. I mean, this is an absolute blast. I couldn't do it without it, and I enjoy spending my time doing sim racing. So thanks to everyone who's made this possible.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Eddie, and best of luck for next week.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.
So that
Excellent.
was
Good to hear. Yeah, sorry, Sam. Yeah, good to hear from Edward and Paul tonight. Say both strong results from them, wasn't it? Say it was a pretty frantic race, Sam, wasn't it? It took a long time. It felt like just to sort of settle down, get into a rhythm.
Yeah, definitely. There was action pretty much on the most part, and yeah, you're absolutely right. The drivers in the early stage just trying to get track position over one another, and interesting to hear about kind of that weight effect seemingly from Eddie there. I didn't think it was quite so significant. I've kind of built it up quite significantly in the past, and it turns out it doesn't actually make much of a difference. But clearly there was making quite a difference, and maybe that was just why we didn't see a proper battle between second and third, Ilbrink versus Delar there, because whenever Delar got close, just couldn't follow through the corner. So certainly something to watch out for in the future weeks, and Donington is going to be another victim of that, because we've got some medium and high speed corners around that circuit as well.
Yeah, definitely makes sense, as you say. So it'd be good to see how that turns out. I'm a big fan, of course, of Donington. Good classic British circuit. As Paul said, it's going to be a little bit narrower for the guys, but I feel like it's got plenty of medium high speed corners, a couple of longer straights to give the guys an opportunity for a sniff of a move. So fingers crossed, we'll see some good action there. So so that'll be, say, Formula 3.5. Yeah, back here at 8 o'clock GMT again next week. Let's have a quick run through our schedule for the rest of the upcoming week, rather than the rest of the week, since we're kind of towards the end there already. Tomorrow morning then, AMF, so Aussie Mixed and Fixed, 9:45 GMT. World GTs, have we got them this week? Let's line up my row that I'm looking at. Yeah, week of GT, World GT is here. So Monday, 8:10 GMT. On Monday night / Tuesday morning, we have got Rikmatech. Which Rikmatech is it? It is going to be Rikmatech SCS Sports Car Series at 12:15 GMT. In fact, they're going to move forward. Their clocks are changing this Sunday, so they will be 1:15 GMT for us this week for Sports Car Series. IMSA then Tuesday morning, 8:45 GMT. BSR MX5 Pro Series, 8:15 GMT on Tuesday. Simulators World on Wednesday, 8 o'clock GMT. They've only got a couple of rounds left because they finished their season a week earlier than official. Then ARL TCR is back on next week, so Thursday, 8 p.m. GMT. IndyCar official NTT IndyCar Road Series, yeah, Friday, 8 o'clock GMT. Week off then from the V8s, and then we're back, as we said, for the Formula 3.5 Championship here at the same time, 8 o'clock GMT next week.
One thing you did miss is the simulators for mental health.
Thank you very much. Yes, charity stream this weekend. Tomorrow, in fact, tomorrow evening, 6.5 hour monster broadcast from, as you say, Simulators for Mental Health. Remind me, Samuli Road America, that one?
Daytona.
Ooh, Daytona Road, that was the one. Sorry, Sam. Thank you very much. Daytona Road in the sort of BPs, GTEs, GT3s, I believe it was. Yep. So that'll be a good stream to check out. So yeah, do check in on that tomorrow, guys. There'll be a donate link in the description as well. That is going towards the Epilepsy Foundation, that charity race tomorrow night. So good opportunity to get involved there. So thank you very much for reminding me of that, Samuli. So that will finish up our broadcast today then, guys. Thanks for joining us for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. Lee Thompson, Sam Fitzpatrick and Samuli Como working double duty in the background. We shall see you again next week for another great race in the 3.5s.